Oh, I'm starting? Oh, I knew this.
Hey there, beautiful people. Welcome to FANTI, the podcast for all those complex and complicado conversations about the gray areas in our lives. I am journalist, author, and your fave, Jarrett Hill.
Oh, so you the favorite now.
Well, depends on the day. You know how it is.
Oh, okay.
Don't let Twitter tell it.
Well, speaking of, I'm Tre'vell Anderson. Coming up on the show today, we have a very special guest. You see the title, okay? You know the name. Lena Waithe will be joining us as our final FANTI guest, I suppose, right? That's yeah, wow. But first, you just spoke about the Twitters and what's going on the Twitters. For our Pass the Popcorn this week, there are some African-Americans on Twitter, or I guess I say X, formerly known as Twitter, that are mad about our book, Jarrett.
I just call it Twitter X all the time.
Huh?
I always call it Twitter X. Are you like adopting it? Well, because you're a journalist on the news every day, so you have to call it X.
I have to call it X, formerly known as Twitter, to ensure that the audience knows what we're talking about.
Indeed. Love that for you, friend. Yeah, so yesterday you kind of mentioned offhand in a meeting that something was going on the internet machine.
Yes. So there are some African Americans, like I was saying, who are on Twitter and in the world, in theory, assuming that they are real people and not bots, that are mad about the book. And so how I discovered this is I woke up to a tweet from somebody who I met at the NABJ convention in Birmingham earlier this year. Their name is Nguyen. They live in New Orleans, I believe.
Hey, Quinn.
And this was the tweet. This was the tweet.
Uh-oh.
Sending Tre'vell Anderson love because I know them personally and they're nothing like what y'all internet hoes are assuming.
Oh, no.
I need y'all to go research, draft, and complete a book, let alone read one before being so nasty. Now, I read that, Jarrett, after rolling over at 7:45 in the a.m., and I said, oh, Lord, they got me. What did I do now? Because, I got bad memory. I got bad memory. So, and I'm human.
You're like, what did I say?
And I'm human, okay? And, sometimes I might be needed to take it to the carpet. I'm open to that might needing to be happen. And so I'm like, what did I do, Lord? Is this my moment? Is they coming for me? And so I go on to the Twitter. And I'm like, okay, it's not, the tweet wasn't linked to anything. So I said, okay, just search your name. Right? So I search my name, and I see people talking about the book. And apparently, there's one guy who stumbled on the book we're talking about historically black phrases, y'all, by the way.
To be clear.
Who stumbled on the book in their bookstore, bought it, loved it, took a picture of the book, and tweeted out, had to have it.
That was it.
But there's so many retweets and comments with other people being like, oh my God, they giving away the secrets. Why would you write a book about AAVE so these white people can, use it? You must be, doing this for the white money. And, oh, I hope no black people are behind this. They gotta be horrible blacks. Like, why would y'all do this? Oh my God. And then I looked a little deeper and I said, oh, y'all ain't read the book.
You ain't touched the book.
Y'all ain't saying much of nothing. Let me go about my day.
Ain't seen the book in person, ain't felt it in your hand, ain't heard the voice, ain't done nothing. What's interesting is you talked about having searched your name and that's how you found it. Because I got on Twitter and I did see that my notifications were a little lit and I was like, what's happening here? But I'm used to searching names on Twitter when big stories happen with, I don't know, other people. And so over the last year and a half, especially since I've been working on the Jussie documentary, occasionally I will go and search his name to see how people are talking about the case and him and things like that. And it's always horrendous. And I'm always mortified by what I'm seeing and hoping that he's not doing it because I know that people see things about themselves. And so to type in my own name and to start seeing things come up, I was like, oh, well, this is this is different. Okay, right. And like it kind of reminded me a little bit of like what it was like after the Melania thing happened, starting to see my name show up in places where
Mm.
I just had no connection to, right? That where people, no one in this conversation knows me or has heard anything about anything I do other than whatever this thing is that they're talking about. And it's a little weird. But it was interesting. I was saying to y'all in our pre-pro meeting, like I've seen like my photo attached with tweets like, who would write a book like this? Oh, this nigga. And I'm like, am I am I supposed to be offended that I look like the person who would write my book? Like, I don't know what that means.
But but here's the thing, because if they could find your name in your photo, in theory they also saw my name and my photo, and the fact that they took your photo to say this nigga and not my photo to say this nigga says a lot about these niggas.
Well, also these niggas, I have seen like Tre'vell with an apostrophe. Oh, that's a nigga or something like that. Like
I did see that. And I was like, yes, I am. You are correct.
I was like, not wrong. Not wrong. I appreciated a bit of it. But as we were, Palmira was also telling us that she's seen some of the comments and like, because Palmira be in the comments, y'all. When y'all are commenting on anything, like Palmira sees it and will sometimes tap back and be like, "No, let me tell you what these bitches said," and I'll be like,
listen.
But I generally don't like to read the comments. That does not mean that I don't read the comments, but I don't really like to. But it's been interesting. I actually expected this to have happened a long time ago, right? To me, the fact that it's happening in December, I'm just like, oh, y'all a little late. Like, sweetie, we've been out here. But now I'm like, oh, well, we have some other things coming up where you'll be seeing the book, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later. But like, I don't know. I expected this to have already happened. So I'm kind of like...
Not the teaser.
Yeah. Yes. Coming up on the show a little bit later, we have a little bit of information about where y'all can find us more in the future. And we'll tell you where that'll be and how that'll work. But yeah, it's just, it's been interesting to see this happening. So good for us.
Yeah. Well, in theory, it's driving sales. We'll find out soon. But what I wanted to be sure...
Okay.
Go. I was about to make a serious turn, but you were about to make a joke. Go make a joke. Go.
Well, no. Well, two things. So I was on the phone with Jarrett Lucas, who you all know has been on the show, and I was saying to them like, this happened, this thing is happening, and people are talking about it online or whatever. And Jarrett said to me, "Oh, if this were Sex in the City, I'd be Samantha." And like, "Oh, honey, there's no such thing as bad publicity." And I was like, yeah, they would have said that in the early 2000s. We don't necessarily believe that now. That it was just we had a good laugh about that.
Well, I was gonna say that, like, I want to be clear that, like, especially for the conversation we are about to have, that like I'm actually deeply interested in like legitimate tussling and like intellectual curiosity and that type of criticism and critique, right? Like maybe there are people, right, who read the book, right, who actually open it, who actually, at least read the introduction where we lay out, our kind of, purpose, focus, etc.
That's asking a lot.
Apparently. But I want to say that at least I'm open to whatever the critique or wrestling, right, or tussling that might be able to be done with our book, right? And with the creation of our book, right, for, we've talked about on the show about the journey of selling the book, right, and making the decision with the editor and the publisher that we went with and all of those reasons. So, like, the information is out there in terms of our perspective and how we come to and even wrestle with doing the book. It's in all of the press that we've done, etc. So if folks are interested in, engaging with us in that way on those points, we can do it, right? But the only way we can do that is if you read the book, beloved. You gotta put your hands to those pages. Right? So that you can receive the offering that we have given as we have given it, right? Not as you perceive, right, it to have been given. You know what I mean? And then we can have a conversation. You can still read us down to the ground, right, about allegedly writing this book for quote unquote white money, right? Sure. Right? Because that's just the nature of the system, though, beloved. All money is white money, beloved. It ain't green sugar.
Oh, wow.
I mean, listen, if we want to do it, you know what I mean? Because I can go there. You know what I mean? And so I just want to say, you know, because one of the things you brought up in our pre-pro meeting, and then we gonna throw to the break, I swear. But one of the things you brought up in our pre-pro meeting was that, you know, in theory, perhaps this dust up, you know, leads more people to finding us, right? In various different ways. And so I want to be clear for those who might find this here conversation, because I have no intention of addressing the foolishness beyond this particular conversation, you know, in a public manner. I want to let them know, right, that like, I'm down. Let's have some conversation. Absolutely. But, you know, you got to look at the book. And I'm not even telling you to buy the book.
Oh, wait, no.
I'm going to leave it right there because we got a email later that's going to talk about other ways that you can put your hands on the book that don't require you to pay for it. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see what you're doing there. I see. Okay. I see what you're doing. I see what's happening. Okay.
You see what I'm doing? Yeah. Uh-huh.
I would also say this conversation that we're going to be having with Lena Waithe, we pre-recorded last week because of scheduling and all that kind of stuff. And so it's been interesting to have this happen since we've done that interview, and some of the conversation that we have with Lena about like the feedback that people have and like what you do with that. It hits a little bit more interestingly here. So we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got the one, the only Lena Waithe coming up next.
If you're Black, you probably love you some Paramore, huh? Or what about the TV show Golden Girls? Ginger ale? Daytime television? Don't lie, I know you love at least one of them. I'm Sequoia Holmes, pop culturist and host of Black People Love Paramore. Contrary to the title, it is not a podcast about the band Paramore. Each episode, I, along with a special guest co-host, dissect one pop culture topic that mainstream media doesn't necessarily associate with Black people, but we know we like. Tune in every other Thursday to the podcast that's dedicated to helping Black people feel more seen.
Black People of Paramore is now on the Maximum Fun Network. Check out the most recent episode featuring Shar Jossell today.
Welcome back to FANTI. All right, so as y'all know, okay, we on this show, in our earliest episodes of this here podcast, we would give people in culture the FANTI treatment. Wendy Williams, Kevin Hart, the queen herself, Monique, all right? And we have always wanted to do one of those episodes with the actual person we're talking about, to hear, as the old folks say, from the horse's mouth about some of the things that we and those of y'all out there on the social medias be thinking, feeling, and saying about these folks and their works. And one of those people who has been in our queue for a little minute, we wanted to have her on the show for a little minute. One, because of the outsized impact that she has had on culture, but also because y'all always got something to say about her and her work, is someone who needs no introduction, but Jarrett is going to give her one anyway.
Our final FANTI guest is the first Black woman to win an Emmy as a screenwriter. She is a prolific producer and an actress many, many times over.
She do all the things.
I'm not gonna have a moment right now doing this to welcome you on FANTI. Our final guest is the one, the only Lena Waithe. Welcome to FANTI.
Pew, 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 pew.
It's a long time coming. Happy to be here. What's up, y'all?
Oh my gosh. Thank you for being here.
We did it.
We did do it. We did do it. We figured it out. We are really grateful to have you here. Tre'vell wants to ask our first question, so I'll let you take it over.
I do, okay? Because I want to kind of set the stage for our conversation here. You know, I think the last few years in particular have been a lot on all of us, y'all, okay? We obviously had the pandemic, right? which shifted a lot of things for folks. And then this year in particular, we had the writers' strike, the actors, both of the strikes, which, you both of them types of people, Lena. So I imagine that had an impact on you. And so I want to ask, just in general, as kind of the setting the stage and getting us into this conversation, how has the last few years impacted the why of the work that you're doing, right? And your desire to continue, putting stuff out into the world. How has the last few years shifted things for you?
I think the last few years, I've thought a lot about the relationship between artist and audience. And I think the line is really blurred. I think people who were once in the audience can be, on the stage because of, whether it be podcasts such as this one, people can kind of pipe up, or, just TikTok or YouTube. And so I think what's happened is people that were once in the audience are now on the stage. I think I'm starting to actually have empathy for people that have been on the stage for a long time. Because the truth is, when people are looking at you, there becomes a thing where if you don't do things the way other people would do them, then you can become ridiculed for it. And I think there's this sort of understanding between folks now, but there's still a gap though. So I think when you're a person who isn't supposed to exist, like I'm not supposed to, there's a pushback, even from people that look like you, because then there can also be a question of why you and why not me. But what I've also really learned too is a lot of stuff is how a person reacts to me is more of a reflection on their experience, not them, but their experience. And I've sort of found a freedom in that. And so what has been really exciting is, the work has to come from a place that just feels honest, that feels like something that I need to express, or my support of other artists. Even if another artist may do something in a way that I wouldn't, it's also my job to support their decision to do it however they decide to do it. And art is forever. Opinions are not. Audiences change and grow. And just the way we as artists ask the audience to give us grace or empathy to grow, we also have to give that same grace to the audience. And so, because what I found is that there are works that I really like or appreciate now that my mom will say, oh, when that came out, we were not happy about it. Like I'll use the original movie, The Color Purple, as an example. I'm not even trying to flex, but yes, I think people know I've worked with Spielberg. He put me in my first film. But he and I spoke about The Color Purple. And we had such a lovely conversation on set of Ready Player One. And he said, people were not too pleased about me directing that movie at the time. I said, I can imagine. And I said to him, but by the time that movie got to me, it meant so much to me as a queer Black young person, queer Black woman, seeing that and that impact that it had on me. So I got to thank him on that set all those many moons later to say, when I saw Celie and Should Kiss, I saw myself. So thank you for that. And he said, thank you for this. And so I think so I've had many moments like that, like Theodore Witcher, who did Love Jones. By the time Love Jones got to me, I was like, obviously, Love Jones means so much to me. I've watched it a million times. I'm from Chicago. I'm obsessed. But Theodore Witcher and I have spoken a ton. And it's the only movie he's ever made. He still says it may be the only movie he'll ever make. But he was like, when it came out, it didn't hit. People were not trying to see this movie about spoken word and this love story in Chicago. And so he said it took a while for it to get its applause. He said, I'm the product of delayed gratification. And so I think that's a big thing I've learned over the years and time. And also, when art comes out at a particular time, how the audience receives it is a reflection of that time, more so than a reflection of the work or the artist. And I also am not a believer in the artist involving themselves in the debate with the audience. It is not my job to join the debate about Queen and Slim, which I never did, because I've done my job, especially if people are debating it. And what I love is to see people continue to talk about it or dress up for Halloween or whatever it may be. Whenever someone does that or talks about the ending or whatever, I always say thank you for keeping the work alive. Because a lot of movies come and go and they're forgotten, or people don't debate them, or they don't talk about them. They just feel pleased. They're like, oh, this work pleases me. I'm good with this. There's no debate or conversation to be had.
You're not wrong about that.
And I love even with people from a new generation, by the way, who are discovering Love Jones or even loving basketball for the same time. Young folks who are debating it. They're saying, yo, loving basketball is kind of toxic. Yo, Love Jones wasn't a perfect movie. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe I work for Gina Prince Bythewood. I know theater, so I have a different experience with these films than say a 22-year-old watching it now in 2023, who can look at it from a very different lens. But us engaging in debate keeps the work alive, and I think that to me is a beautiful thing, because the movies that are not being debated, shows that are not being dragged or talked about, they just disappear. So I always tell artists, like, if the work is being debated, then you have succeeded. So that's sort of what I've really learned. Long-winded answer, what I've learned.
I appreciate that lens. I know in our conversation, like you have like a distinct perspective on this that has evolved in the decade that I've known you. And I've been grateful to like see that evolution. And I'm kind of curious nowadays, one of the things that we've talked about that really stuck with me was how you see your queerness. And a better way to ask this would be, earlier talked about why you're not supposed to be here, right? The disqualifiers, if you will, that make you not supposed to be here. And I'm really curious how you articulate to an audience and to even your team and yourself, your queerness in the way that it holds you back in certain spaces, and the ways that it also has been an accelerant for you, whether we're talking about in culture and the way that people critique your work, the way that people think about what you do. How has your queerness been a factor in that?
My queerness has not held me back. It's made people hold me to a higher standard, but it's not held me back. It has propelled me. If I wasn't queer, you wouldn't have the Thanksgiving episode. I think that, and it also gives me a very unique perspective on the world. I think that's why there's a great fear about queer folk, because we don't see the world as black and white. We know that that's not true. We also know secrets, because when certain straight people flirt with us or look at us, or DM us, we are the keeper of secrets.
All right now.
So,
my God, today.
And also I have a very unique way of existing in the world, in how straight black men are kind of comfortable around me because there's no chance of sex. So when I'm around, and I'm saying specifically about black men, but it could be, straight men in general, there's no performance. So I kind of sometimes get a very interesting look into, straight guys and how they think. Because when I'm with them, because we both like women, I'm kind of treated as one of the guys. And so I get a lot of insight. And then when I'm around women who identify as straight, there's also a very interesting energy there, because they know I'm a woman. I identify as woman. My pronouns are she, her. And there's this element of comfort because she's with a woman, so she doesn't feel like she has to perform. But there's also a masculine energy that I have that also feels interesting and sometimes intriguing. And then also my relationship with other queer black women who are masculine presenting. If I'm hanging with Sam J, and us finding our own thing and saying, like, when we were like hanging out and getting to know each other, she was like, oh, you have something to offer me. I have something to offer you that we didn't realize we needed. Because sometimes there can be that, or even like JoJo, people know JoJo from 20s, or Shiloh, I just really have loved building a relationship with Josie, building a relationship with other queer black women who are sort of masculine of center, if you will. That has been really exciting because we are part of this family. And sometimes there can be this interesting competition. There's always, some people say two studs is like two alley cats, trying to figure each other out. What do we do? So I just always, and then with gay black men, there's also this sort of comfortability there too. Because I think because I have a big personality, and there's sort of this thing that I'm kind of into, also, it's so I have a perspective of being able to exist in any space. And then also, with Hollywood and all the other kind of stuff, it doesn't hold me back. It's superpowers. And also I understand the difference because for my more femme gay black men, there's a uncomfortability when they're around straight black men. Not necessarily from always on them, but from the other side, it's like, oh, how do I be? How do I act? Like, what's happening? But if I step into that space, you know, I can go to the 2 Chainz, Lil Wayne listening party and chill. But I can also go to the Renaissance premiere, you know, and I can also exist in the Gotham Awards. You know what I mean? Go to the Kennedy Center honors. So it's like I see it almost as a privilege. And I think that's also a new thing, is I do not see it as it holding me back, but it propelling me forward. And also there comes and sometimes there can be resentment toward anyone with the privilege. Cause like, oh, you get to go be in those spaces, but I've seen you stumble. I've seen you make choices that I don't agree with. So you don't deserve to have that life, that joy, a second chance. Again, people's reaction to me is a reflection of their experience in the world. So therefore, everyone's reaction to me, I see as valid rather than something to be debated. Like if someone says to me, I hate you, I say your feelings are valid. But if someone says, I love you, I say your feelings are valid.
Well, I wanna. Okay, you just said a lot there, Lena. You got my mind running. Okay, love, just running. So the point you made about like people's reactions being a reflection of like their lived experiences and like the collective reaction to a work, right, being a reflection of the times, not necessarily a reflection of you or the art that you have put out in the world. I think that's a really salient and wonderful like point in reframing, I think, in terms of like an artist's relationship to, you know, how the public, you know, grapples with it, if the public grapples with it. I'm wondering though, has there been a piece of, you know, feedback or criticism that you did hear that was a reflection of somebody else, but that you heard and you were like, actually, you might have hit on something there that I can take and like incorporate into my storytelling going forward?
It's interesting because as an artist, I think you have to be mindful of how many voices or opinions get into your head or your spirit, because if someone has a thought about the work and it's coming from a place of wanting the work to be better or stronger in any way, or really hit a point really clearly, that person is usually within that artist's feedback circle, if you will. That doesn't mean that a person who doesn't know me or could say something or whatever. But the tricky thing is this. Okay, I think when the work is out, it's done. It's like somebody trying to tell you, you know what, if you would have had a baby with this person, it's like, you know, so maybe the next time I go to have a kid, I'll consider, but then am I doing that for me or you? It's just, you know, I just think that art is subjective. It just is. But I get the idea of the audience having feedback and thoughts. I mean, I go see movies all the time and think like, oh, what they did that, or what they did this, or maybe that could have happened, but it's already complete. So, and the thing is like, but when you move on to the next thing, I'm not the same person anymore.
That's real.
Like, I'm not the same artist and I'm not making the same things. So I do think what a person can do is they can see one piece of art that you've made and make a judgment on everything that you've done. I think what's exciting about my body of work is that you actually can't say it's one thing. You look at things, Master of None, The Shy, 20s, Queen and Slim, Being Mary Tyler Moore, Boomerang, Ready Player One, obviously something I was in. I got a chance to be a part of Westworld. You know, there are, and then other, you know, obviously Kokomo City, which we're really honored to be a part of. 1001, which we're very honored to stand next to. The work is really, it's instinctual. That's all I have to go on. It's my gut, my instinct. So, and I have to trust that. And I'm really honored to be around artists that I trust and I love, whether it be Melina Mitsoukas, Justin Simeon, Rada Blank, 40-Year-Old Version. Don't want to forget 40-Year-Old Version, our first film that we put out, you know, under Hillman Grad Banner. So the work is always funny. There's always usually humor in something. I think that's my core.
Yes.
It is so funny. It's like the girl who's known for trauma won an Emmy for comedy writing, but 20s is also, is such, I can't think of a thing that's more of a thinly veiled version of my life and me. My comedy is where it began for me. It continues to always be a theme, like a constant. But I also don't want to just be that one thing. So I'm not afraid to go to darker spaces. I'm not afraid to support someone who lives in the darker spaces. And I think that is something that's important to me, is to always have balance. But, sometimes a person will see one thing you did and go, oh, that's who they are. That's what they do. And I think that is not who I want to be. I always want people to always be wondering and always be guessing and to always be surprised at what comes out of Hillman Grad next. And I think that we've been able to do that. But it's always from the gut. It's always like, oh yeah, I saw Kokomo City, and when I was sitting in London, and I was just like, what can we do to help? For be nominated for Independent Spirit Award, Best Documentary, shout out to D. Smith. It's like, and that sometimes you get validated because you go, okay, cool, I wasn't crazy. And but then also I get to build a relationship with D. Smith, who I love, who I send voice notes back and forth to, and be silly and not even always be talking about work, but just like, hey, you taking care of yourself? You had something to eat today? You drinking water? Okay, cool. Or A.B. Rockwell and Tiana Taylor, like we've been on group chats with them. Like, how you feeling? You good? Okay, you all right? All right, T. Hey, you need me? No, not about business stuff. Are you okay? Okay, cool. Okay, all right. Not okay, what you need. And so I think that's also a part of it, is that I think people often think that it's just work. It's no, we're humans who happen to make art for a living. And that's a very interesting job, because it's the only job that everybody thinks they can do better. And it's also, it's mentally, it can weigh on you, because even right now, like we're working on The Chi, very happy, our 6th season and doing all these different things. And The Chi has been such a journey. It's like anything that does not kill you will make you stronger. I'm very strong. I stand very tall, and I'm grateful to the Chi family that keeps us going, and so we can be in our 6th season. But if I'm having a bad day, it doesn't mean I don't have to turn in the script, because the crew and the cast and the writers need me to make sure that gets done. And that's also a part of it. So anybody that wants to come into the business, I always say, just make sure you are mentally strong, because anything can happen. And I still have to write. I still have to be creative. I still have to step up. I still have to show up. And then when you show up and then someone say, well, I didn't like what they did with that scene, or I didn't like with this, like, you still have to continue. You still have to keep pushing. You still have to entertain those that don't like you. That's our job. We entertain everyone. You don't get to go out there and say, oh, you don't get to watch this. You don't get to tune into this because you wouldn't, you don't get a say. It's like, because they could be mad at you one day and then the show that you make could make their day when they're having a bad. And that is also in relationship. Like, we are in relationship. You know how you're in a relationship with somebody and you love them sometimes, other times they're on your nerves? That is a relationship. So that's what I always want folks to understand, that relationship between artist and audience is just that. It is a relationship. And if you believe that the person you are in relationship with is supposed to always make you happy, supposed to always make you feel good, supposed to always do it the way you would do it, you are setting yourself up for disappointment.
I want to start where you started and end where you ended. I appreciate the answer that you gave about whether or not feedback has been resonant for you, because as I'm like creating more things for myself and things that I'll be putting out into the world, I've been thinking a lot more about the feedback and the criticism and what people think and all this other stuff, and like releasing that. But I appreciate what you had to say about how the work is done. The book is published, sweetie. It's already on the shelf. And I appreciate your feedback, and I appreciate what you think about it. And I know that phrase wasn't in there, right? But like, sweetie, the book is done. And you talked about how you show up in the world and in your relationships. I'm not going to ask you about your personal life and relationships and all those kinds of things, but I am curious for you to tell us how you think about your own privacy and what you share and what you don't, right? You talked about the connections, relationships that you have with various different folks in your life. And I'm like, how do you think about what you want to talk about and what you don't want to talk about, what you want to give to people and share and what you want to keep private?
Yeah, well, I think it's a great question. Well, first of all, and I think you know this, Jared, because you knew me before I was a public person, I guess we could say. Celebrity. I would prefer that than celebrity. I never wanted to be a famous person. That was never the goal. And I think that's why I have such an interesting relationship with fame, because it wasn't something I ever chased. It also maybe wasn't something I necessarily needed or wanted. I really wanted to be a really good television writer. That was really it. And I wasn't speaking about like Emmys and stuff like that. I didn't talk about that. We would get together and like watch award shows, and I really loved all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't necessarily something trying to, okay, that's the goal. I want to get there. So, and that's a very interesting thing about my relationship with the public, because I never came out to people. I stepped onto Master of None playing a queer character because Aziz was like, this character was supposed to be a love interest for me initially, but this is more interesting. So just be you, and let's go there. And so playing Denise, which was sort of a very close to me, is sort of really what began this journey of people seeing someone that looked like me and thinking, oh, okay, all right, this is kind of cool. All right, well, this lesbian who's a bit of a stud and likes the ladies a little too much sometimes. And that was this new thing, but it also kind of felt like a breath of fresh air for people, and it was exciting. And then people got to know me outside of that character, because obviously, shout out to Radhika, for putting me on the cover of Vanity Fair, which was also a game changer. Where I think people people don't realize that was the new, talk about a game change. She became the new editor-in-chief at that cover. And so she and I always share that. And I think that's when I really kind of gave people a look into my life, into my home, into my relationship. And in that time, I think that was important. I don't regret it at all. I think it's important for us to see queer Black love. But also I think it's important for people to see that queer Black love is just as complicated, it's just as layered, just as difficult as any other love. And I think again, when you are othered in a lot of ways and find success, you are inevitably put on a pedestal, because people wonder, if you don't show up in every way, if you aren't always perfect, then what about the rest of us? Then maybe we won't get let in. Then maybe we won't have a chance if you aren't perfect always. And so what I've learned is that the best thing I can actually do for my community is to not be perfect, but to be human.
Well, you preaching.
The best way to humanize us is to be human in front of us. But sometimes people who look like me sometimes want me to be a reflection of them. And they want their reflection to maybe look different, to be better, to be perfect. And that's too much for me to bear. It's too much for anyone to bear.
We started off this conversation saying we started this show and like we would have conversations around various different people and create and shows and things and works, and like the wrestle that we have with the things that we see in the world, right? And like have always loved being able to like live in the nuance of like, yeah, we love this thing. This was kind of weird, but appreciate this and all those different kinds of things. But I love the way that you worded that people will see my work or see me and want to see a reflection, right? Like when we have all these conversations around representation and how important it is that we are represented and all these different things. And I think that when we talk about representation, so often it's about like, we want to see our story reflected. That's not my version of Blackness. That's not my version of queerness. That's not my version of love. That's not my version of being at work. That's not my version, right? And like so often like the critique and the criticism and the feedback and the you could have done this was really about wanting to see more of a reflection of yourself than it was about wanting to see what that person had to say, right? And that's really landing with me. And I appreciate that. I know we're at time right now, so we got to wrap up here, but thank you for being a part of these last episodes with us.
Thank you, Lena.
Thank you. No, thank you for y'all for being voices in this space. I think it was needed. I know it was appreciated. And I think it's something that people just really wanted because, our voices are very distinctive, especially when we're talking about art, work, people. And I'm just grateful for the conversations that y'all have had, about the work, about people, because I think you represent that balance, even in the title, FANTI. You can be anti, you could also be a fan. Two things can be true. And I think that balance, that nuance is really what we need more of. And I think that'll be the legacy that y'all leave behind, is that it doesn't have to be all one thing. And so I feel that way about, myself and my work and who I am. And I totally get people when they see a person who has broken through, who has sort of gotten to the other side. It's a triumph, but it's also a lot of trial and a lot of trial and error. But I hope what we all can take away is everybody needs grace. Everybody needs empathy, because we actually have a lot more in common than we think. So I appreciate y'all so much for having me. This has been amazing, and this has been a long time coming, but I'm glad we got it done.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
We want to hear from y'all, not what y'all think about it, not what y'all's opinions are, because we don't care now. Hit us up on social media using the hashtag FantiFam. No, I'm kidding. Your opinions are great. We want to hear them. Hit us up on the X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and at YouTube at Fanti Podcast. Coming up, where we've got a little bit more for y'all. Don't go anywhere.
Throughout history, sirens have captured men's attention, enticed men with their feminine wiles, and fulfilled men's primal needs. The sirens' allure persists.
They have not. Unless the primal need is, I need to be smashed on the rocks.
Yeah, smash me.
Smash me, mommy.
Smash me, mama.
Smash me, mommy.
The sirens' allure.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
Strand me, baby.
Strand me, baby.
So yeah, listen to my brother and me from Maximum Fun on Mondays. It's just like that. Just like that, but more, it's just like that, but more of it. There's just more of that.
Welcome back, beautiful people. We're going to get into our listener feedback segment. Okay, I told you earlier in the show that I had something for those of you out there who have not yet been able to put your hands right on historically black phrases, or your ears on historically black phrases, because there's an audiobook, okay, as well. And so we have an email here from Michaela. Hello. I love the show, and it has meant so much to me, as it has, amongst other things, helped me connect to and embrace my blackness. I have been looking forward to reading y'all's books since you announced them. Just wanted to say that while I'm not as liquid as I'd like to be at the moment, I do have a working library card. I was wondering if requesting y'all's books at my library, digital or physical version, helps y'all out in any way. I haven't heard you mention anything vis-a-vis library, so I thought I'd put this out there. Thanks for all your time, effort, and energy over the years, Michaela.
Hey, Michaela.
Love this question. Absolutely. Yes, you can request our books at your library. They will purchase them and you can rent it, right? This is, I particularly was thinking, of this applies to We See Each Other as well. Just to throw that out there.
Get in it.
But yes, you can request it at your library, have them get you a copy of it, physical or digital. That definitely helps because it shows the ways that our books, right, are necessary, right? That people are interested in them, that these library spaces should be holding these types of books as well, because those of you who are patrons of the library need and want them. And it is an opportunity to keep putting, you'll be surprised how many of these library associations and education groups and all of those type of entities can really be great kind of opportunities and for a book to have a future life beyond just kind of that initial release window. So yes, go to the library. You can request both books and then you can give us your feedback and your thoughts about the offering that we have gifted to the world? Twitter.
I would also say one of the things that is hitting for me right now, I don't know if you remember, of course you remember this. Well, not with your memory, but
Wow, not the stray bullet.
I remember in the weeks right before the book came out, I was saying to you, we should send the book to libraries in states where they're banning Black shit.
Oh my God.
And you were like, I think you're serious about this. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of serious. Yeah, like it might be fun to do that. We didn't do it, but I still think about it. I'm like, oh, we should send it, especially like to public schools throughout Florida. Like, oh, that would be,
Of course you do.
that would be prime.
Cut it out. Please and thank you. But yes, y'all can request the books at your library anywhere. And then, obviously if just request the books. I'm gonna leave it at that and hope that it allows all of you to partake in the knowledge and the celebration and the wondrousness of the texts that we have given to you all. Okay.
Oh, wow. Here we go.
Out of our long, hard work.
Oh, wow. And now the emotion shows up.
All right. And now it's time for our honorable mentions. No, it's time for our honorable mentions. So we're going to start doing something different for these last few episodes of FANTI with our honorable mentions section, okay? We're going to start using this as a segment and a chance to direct y'all to other shows that we listen to, other shows that we think you should be listening to, other shows that are doing really great work at this kind of sort of intersections, the various intersections that I feel like we as FANTI exist at, since we are, wrapping this mother up. Oh, you can't stop today.
Okay.
I'm done. Anyway, Jarrett.
If y'all ever hear Tre'vell go, oh, you need to start backing away. Just let me tell you.
Go ahead, Jarrett. You go first.
You did that on the phone the other day, and I was like, oh, shit. Here we go. Let me put the phone down, because she's got about 10 seconds of a musical happening right now. Okay, so first things first, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago on the show, I did mention First Wives Club being on Netflix and me binging it. Let me tell you, season 1, fantastic. Season 2, pretty good. Season 3, we took a detour. I happened to read a spoiler alert by accident, and I was like, oh, I'm glad I knew this was going to happen before it happened. But it was a lot, as we're suggesting other shows. But
okay,
I would be down for a season 4, but skeptical nonetheless. Just want to put that there.
You're supposed to be telling people about podcasts. Yeah.
As we're recommending podcasts, I want to. I'm trying, but I just had to put that in there. Y'all can DM me about it later, but I felt a way. I was like, oh, I done recommended this show, and they done really went left here. The Institute of Black Imagination is a podcast I'd like to suggest to you all. Lena, who obviously we just talked to, has been on the show as well, and she has a fantastic conversation with the host, Dario Calmese. They describe the show as they say, welcome to the Institute of Black Imagination, hosted by artist, writer, and designer Dario Calmese. Each week, we bring you conversation from the pool of Black genius, a collection of iconoclasts at the leading edge of cultural thought and innovation. I thoroughly enjoy the show. There's such interesting conversations about from creatives about all the different kinds of work that we find Black creatives doing, and I just really, really enjoy it. So check out the Institute of Black Imagination. Last week, we mentioned on the show a new show that's coming to Maximum Fun called Black People Love Paramore. Sequoia has been on our show before, and her first episode on Max Fun is with friend of our show, Shar Jossell. The show has been going on for a while, but the first Maximum Fun episode that has just now come out, and all the past episodes are now on Max Fun as well. But Shar is on, and they're talking about daytime talk, which is really in Shar's sweet spot. And so you can go check out Black People Love Paramore wherever you're listening to this podcast, or wherever you get podcasts, as Black People Love Paramore and Sequoia are now a part of the Maximum Fun podcast family. So check them out. What you got?
Oh, okay. So I don't have I feel like you gave very good explanations of your two recommendations. I don't have the official description for these two. I'm just gonna tell y'all why I like them. There's a podcast, a limited series podcast called Afterlives, the Layleen Polanco story. That is a podcast produced and hosted by Raquel Willis, whose book just came out a couple weeks ago. I mentioned it on the show. And it is about Layleen Polanco, who was a Afro-Latina trans woman who died in solitary confinement on Rikers Island. And about the story of how she ended up there and how she died in the negligence of the Department of Corrections and Police Department and all those other stuff. Really great limited series, particularly if you are into that kind of true crime-ish type space of podcasting and that type of reported storytelling. Check that out. Afterlives, the Layleen Polanco story. And then, this isn't a podcast that needs any love per se directed to it because they on NPR. And I'm sure, that the listenership is out of this world over there. But I want to shout them out because they're doing some really great audio work over there. And that's It's Been a Minute with Brittany Luce, who has been on our show as well. Brittany was one of our guests for our sort of kind of only ever live show. It was like virtual though. It was for like the London. We did something for the London podcast.
Oh, yes.
Something and it was virtual. Anyway, Brittany's the host over there now. One of my mentees, Corey Antonio Rose, is also a producer on the show. They've just been really doing really great, interesting conversations lately, okay? And so, if you just want to listen to good shit, go to It's Been a Minute, okay? And then Afterlives. And with that...
Should we have, the good shit list?
Well, yes. Period. Okay. And now it's time for Black History is Happening Every Day. So today's Black History is Happening Every Day is a very special one. One, because it is our, last official Black History is Happening Every Day because we got, special episodes coming for y'all over the next couple weeks. But because we are giving ourselves this honor, okay? Everybody's like, now what the fuck is they talking about?
Well, this felt like a great idea. And then when you said it, I was like, oh, wow. Now I feel, I see how this comes across.
I don't care. Because we've been telling y'all for the longest that we are working on something to try to, come out some of you all's way, particularly around the book Historically Black Phrases. And so we are so happy to announce that Historically Black Phrases Live, the tour, is happening, okay? Across Black History Month this coming February 2024. We will be popping over to 4 cities, or I guess I should say 3 cities, and then the city that we live in, okay? DC, Atlanta, New York, and Los Angeles for this live game show that we have come up with inspired by the book.
Yes, we have taken the book and turned it into a pop culture game show that we're excited to bring to you all in these various different cities and hopefully more cities in the future. But we're excited to kind of talk through our favorite pop culture moments in Black history or throughout Black history, and whether it is from television, from film, from music, from what Tre'vell keeps opening their mouth trying to interrupt and say something, so I'm gonna keep going.
Cause I just want, go ahead. I just want the people to know, it's a trivia show, it's a Black culture trivia show ultimately, right? And we're gonna be coming to these cities. We're gonna have some three people that we know and love, that you know and love, come play with us. It's a great grand old time. Okay, and so I just want to tell people that as you're listening to this, okay, you can begin to get your tickets, okay, in those cities right now by taking your behind to historicallyblackphrases.com/live tour, okay? And you can do it. Wonderful.
Thanks, Tab.
Why do you always say do I really always go to a tab place?
You slipped into a tab, I think it was a week or two ago as we went into break, but I watched the YouTube version of it and they didn't include the thanks tab. But like I just wanted you to say, very good. And I would have been perfect.
Very good. Oh, we should say, I don't know if we said, we're hosting the game show.
Yes. Okay, so it is Historically Black Phrases Live, starring Jarrett Hill and Tre'vell Anderson, coming to cities near you. Go to historicallyblackphrases.com/live tour for your tickets and all the information on where we're going to be. We'll be kicking off the show or the tour in Washington, D.C. at the incredibly fantastic Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Library there. Did I say that wrong? Did I put the comma in the wrong way or something?
You said it fine, beloved. You said it fine.
I was like, I'm like making sure that I say all of these things right. We've got Washington, D.C., February 8th. My parents are going to be coming to D.C. They're excited about this show, so that'll be fun. For those of you that have...
Okay, all right. Go to the website to get the information and the dates, everybody. We ain't going date by date, okay? We got time for that.
Listen, right, exactly. That's going to do it for us. If you have not checked out our book or been pissed off about it on Twitter, you can go to historicallyblackphrases.com to find where you can get it. It's available wherever you get your good books and your bad books too. historicallyblackphrases.com for the book, /live tour or /live at either one that you go to. We'll direct you there. We'll take you to information about the tour. If you have not checked out the books from Tre'vell, the book from Tre'vell, We See Each Other, A Black Trans Journey through TV and Film, is available wherever you get books as well. And check out the podcast hosted by none other than Tre'vell Anderson and the one and only Shar Jossell. We See Each Other. The podcast is streaming wherever you're listening to this podcast as well. If you're watching us on the YouTube and you have not checked out past seasons of the show, or you just want to go back and get some more of this good, go to FANTIpodcast.com to get... I know, I realized we haven't said that in a long time, since probably like season 2 or 3. Get some more of this here. Good. Go to FANTIpodcast.com to get all 4 seasons of the show, whether it's in podcast form or season 4 is all on YouTube. If you have a comment or a suggestion about this week's show, you're about out of time, really.
Yeah, we don't want to hear it no more.
But you can go to FANTI Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok, the YouTube, all of that using the hashtag FANTIFam. And you can email us at fanti@maximumfun.org.
Yes, okay. And if you want to support the fabulous work being done here at Maximum Fun, okay, you can become a Maximum Fun member by going to MaximumFun.org/join. Our music is brought to you by Corece, COR.ECE, wherever you get Slay-worthy music. Graphics are by Ashley Nguyen and the folks over at Moonhouse Creative. Our editor is Anne-Marie Huber. Our producer is Palmira Muniz.
And our senior producer is Laura Swisher.
Booyaka, booyaka.
This is a production of Maximum Fun.